Okay. And the Magic Dream Box tells me that I'm live. We usually like to, because we generally run these, we have to, this weird, wacky world of YouTube. Is it a video? Is it a lecture? Is it a discussion? Is it a live stream? The Bug, number one in the live chat. Lisa Kane in the live chat. And that's all I really need. I need to know that the room is promulgating, that people aren't going to be PO'd that I started before they got here. So we'll give a minute. We see Bug, we see Lisa Kane, we see Nev Mas. Bug, congratulations on being first to the live chat. There you go. I won't dilly dally too long. We won't waste a lot of header at the front end. We'll get to where we'll get to. I just have one and a little bit of notes on this. And basically what we're going to do today is we're going to deconstruct the popular mythology about American culture and American popular music circa 1992, 93. And this has to do with the so-called grunge revolution, or the alternative rock revolution. Here's the narrative. The narrative goes something like this. Um, Once upon a time, in the go-go 80s, Reagan, Bush era, American hard rock, heavy metal, glam rock was ruling the airwaves. Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Warrant, Trickster, Britney Fox, have at it, Cinderella, Poison, don't forget Poison, ruled the roost. And then one day, all of a sudden, Nirvana came along and released a groundbreaking record called Nevermind. And woof, America woke up and realized that hair metal was bullshit, right? And lame and superficial, right? And crass and commercial. And the American youth wanted something real to reflect the realness of their real lives. And so the narrative goes, out of the alternative music scene came a whole bunch of bands out of Seattle, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, right? Ushering a new way, opening up the floodgates to the previously barely explored college rock, alternative rock, pick what name what you will, alternative scene. And then that came in and became the music ascended past the hard rock and heavy metal that preceded it. Um, and there was even a movie that came out called 1992, the year that punk broke, meaning it was about the Seattle scene and about alternative music and Sonic Youth, and basically the narrative was, sometime in the early '90s, alternative music supplanted American hard rock and heavy metal as the dominant youth culture. Of course, we need to know and acknowledge at the front end that this narrative itself already indicates that in the early '90s, though there might have been an air of progression happening with the Reagan Bush era being left behind us and moving into the election of Bill Clinton, because nothing says progressive like the election of a white man from Arkansas, and this whole narrative, of course, is leaving aside the fact that as Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all these discussions we're having about revolutions in music are occurring, that discussion completely ignores the fact that many people in America who were not Caucasian were experiencing their own music scenes and their own changes in demographics and in styles and stylistic influences. The ascent of new producers in hip hop and techno, to say nothing of the absolutely often ignored fact that as we speak and as we live and breathe in America, and certainly as we lived and breathed in America in 1992, there were millions of people who weren't listening to music in English at all, right? Latin Americans, um, et cetera, et cetera, what have you. And I think that that's important to know because that, is at the outset of kind of my deconstruction. And my deconstruction goes something like this: everything I just said is a myth. It's a myth. It's an absolute and total myth. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, all those bands coming out of Seattle, and the bands that dominated the so-called alternative rock revolution were not alternative rock at all. They weren't, as we can understand them, college rock, as exemplified by bands like, REM and, the Smithereens and the Smiths. They certainly weren't goth like Bauhaus or Joy Division or Susie and the Banshees or the light 4AD sound that was prevalent at the time of the 90s, like Cocteau Twins and bands like, the Pixies. No, so what I'm going to say is this: is that here's the ugly truth. Nirvana, Soundgarden, and even Jane's Addiction, they weren't alternative rock bands. They were hard rock, heavy metal bands. There could be no. I'm gonna lay out my proofs. If it sounds that I'm incorrect, I'm not. I am correct, and you're wrong. Devin Shovel writes Nirvana, etc. were alternative pop. No, no. They were hard rock, and we'll get through it. We'll get there. Let me make sure I mention. I'm going to write down a note that my notes might be a little bit unorganized. But we'll get there. So to understand part of my methodology and part of the underlining theories that are going to drive and are kind of under the hood of my analysis. Vanessa Thor writes Nirvana is grunge rock. And what? Yep. Good night. No problem. Can do. Nirvana is grunge rock. What is grunge rock? I'm going to argue that grunge rock is hard rock. It's hard rock, and it was a myth to draw them in and to draw the whole Seattle sound, to draw a nexus of connection between that and punk rock, when the actual nexus of connection doesn't go to 1975 through 77 punk rock, and we'll get there, but rather it's to early 70s hard rock, Deep Purple, the James Gang, early Eagles. It's just the way that we're going to deconstruct it. We'll get there, and we'll get there hopefully in time. Let me explain to you something about for people that come to my channel often. This is going to be repetitious, and I apologize, but for that. But we're going to assume that there might be at least a few newcomers that come around to see this video based on the fact that we're talking about new things that we don't always talk about. Okay, and one of the things we have to start with is I'm just going to give a little bit of of context to something called the 20-year nostalgia loop. The 20-year nostalgia loop is pretty rock solid, and it basically indicates that everything that's going on in popular culture at a given moment in time, and I'm speaking specifically from what we refer to as first world nations, post World War II, right? We're talking about and certainly in post 1969. We're talking about the United States of America. We're talking about West Germany. We're talking about you know those nations, and I want to make that distinction because I want to make the distinction to always remind myself and yourselves, right, the audience, that when we're having these conversations, we need to know and understand that we come and we're inundated and we're raised within a culture that basically says what's happening to us as first world people is what's happening in the world. And certainly what was happening in other places was not reflective of this, but reflective of countries and communities and youth cultures that are inundated and surrounded by recording technology and electricity. The prevalence of recording technology and the 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 mass consumption of reproducible units of media um, leads to the past sticking around and hanging out in the future. And the end result is the creation of these nostalgia loops, where basically, so for the 20-year nostalgia loop, anything that's going on in our society today, right, is basically just a repeat, a rehash, and a reiteration of what was happening in 20 years ago. Thomas Minette, thank you for your donation of $2. God bless you. God bless you for your continued financial support of the CW Chanter channel. Thank you. Everything that's going on now is a repeat rehash of what was going on 20 years ago, almost to the day. This can be seen in the realms of fashion, in media, books, culture, cultural themes, the thoughts and ideas of the zeitgeist, even political statements and sentiments. And it's certainly very prevalent in the world of music and the arts, movies and television, what have you. You know what I mean? What debuted in the late 1990s, that '70s show that was just a complete throwback and literal throwback to the 1970s, right? The late 1970s, and we see that. So applying the 20-year nostalgia loop, and I'm going to do it, kind of ham-fisted, and then we'll probably get to it in my notes. And my notes are kind of wackadoo. So as we go through, it's going to be very disorganized, but hopefully, going through it, we'll get through it, and you'll be able to take something away and some have some understanding. If you've got a rebuttal position, if you think that I'm incorrect in my assumptions or deconstruction or theories, please, you can let that be known in the live chat. You can let that be known in the comment section below, and you can certainly free to make a response video, which I think would be great. But anyway, if we look at the 20-year nostalgia loop and apply it to this theory and idea that Nirvana and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Jane's Addiction are connected to in any real substantive way to punk rock, an alternative culture. See that it's very important that we know and understand this, is that what we want to do is we want to decouple music from the narratives of the subcultures. So I get it. Nirvana and Kurt Cobain and Chris Novoselic and Dave Grohl, they don't think of themselves as, I'm sure they didn't hate Led Zeppelin, but they might be huge fans of, say, like early 80s hardcore punk like the Dead Kennedys and Black Flag, and they may feel culturally more affinity. Eddie Vedder might feel a cultural affinity, more of a cultural affinity with the work of Black Flag or the Dead Kennedys or the Ramones or the Velvet Underground, etc. He may consider himself and like personally alternative things, alternative culture, and alternative music. But the fact of the matter is, when Pearl Jam get together and record 10, they don't record a punk rock record. They record a record in the spirit of Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. There could be no debate about it. It's the difference between arpeggiated, jangly guitar riffs and chords and riffs. It's simple. If we get away from the cultural baggage and we just look to the music appreciation, the objective reality of the music, there's nothing new or revolutionary or different or alternative or distinct really between the hard rock music that was being created in 1992 by the so-called alternative rock bands and the hair metal created prior to that time by bands like Warren and Cinderella and Bon Jovi. It's guitar, bass, drums, lead vocalist, rock. The dirty little secret is this: tone, guitar tone. Bass tone is irrelevant because the bass is electric bass primarily. If you just look at understand guitar tone, vocal inflection, right, vocal stylings, and lyrical content, you see quickly that there's very little difference between what Nirvana was doing and what Bon Jovi was doing. Verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. Da 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 da. Okay, guy says Polly wants a cracker. You should put out the blowtorch, whatever. He sings that, and then we say that that's some sort of that's different somehow cognitively than Come on, baby, let's rock and roll. Your daddy is down the show, so I wanna get my dick in you. Bada 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 boo. Sing it, Cece. Right? 89, 92. I don't understand this world. Things are really messed up around me. I think that everyone's rude, but I want to be rude too. Don't understand me. Sing it, Dylan. Bow, 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 bow. Holy fucking shit. I can't believe we were such dickbags in 89 that we're listening to guitar, bass, drums, and fucking weirdos. And now in 92, we have the brains and intelligence to listen to dickheads with guitar, bass, drums, and weirdos. It's fucking bullshit distinctions. It's fucking bullshit. And when you get to the lyrical content, here's the other dirty little secret. What is the political content? What is the real distinction between the lyrical works of Pearl Jam on albums like 10 and the fucking record that came after that with the fucking goat on it, right? Okay, there's a song about gun violence. Get it. Jeremy. Okay. But beyond that, right? It's still disaffected lyrics about not fitting in with the culture around you, being a little bit different, and sometimes being in love. We're sick and tired of those. I guess kids got sick and tired of listening to those stupid songs about cars and sex. You know what I mean? And wanted something more real. First of all, that's a delusion. If you go back to the mid to late '80s, these hard rock and heavy metal and hair metal bands, sometimes they sang about love. Sure, were there songs about cars every once in a while? Absolutely. But the notion that every single song by all those bands was "I want the lyrical content, I want action," uh, uh, by Poison is incorrect. It's absolutely incorrect. Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith. Um, House of Pain by Faster Pussycat. Ballad of Jane by LA Guns. Right? There's lyrical content all Dr. Feelgood about drug addiction and the drug trade by Motley Crue. Cherokee by Europe about the struggles of the first peoples of the Native Americans, right? Final Countdown by Europe, right? It means there were songs about all that shit, and there were songs about all that shit afterwards these so-called alternative rock bands. But let me go back to the 20-year nostalgia loop, and it goes something like this. And we're gonna disprove it. I'm gonna end up being repetitious, but that's okay. Okay, so so-called punk rock music started around 1975 with the release of the first Ramones record. There were predecessors. There were groups like I think the Modern Lovers released the record. Prior to that, I think it's sometime between 72 and 75. Of course, you had were oftentimes considered the progenitors of alternative rock culture, as we know and understand it, the Velvet Underground, that were in operation about 1960, 68, 65 to 70, right, and beyond. So if you go and you understand this, is that we see the punk rock revolution, the so-called punk rock revolution, come back in full swing. Oh, and then you have the punk rock sound starts in America with the Talking Heads, the Ramones, and Blondie. What were the other bands? The Dead Boys. All these bands that sounded absolutely 100% different, 100%, absolutely different from each other, different fashions, different points of view, whole different articulations. The only thing really common to them is that they were in some way, shape, or form a distinction or distinct or independent of the so-called standardized rock tropes of, guys with long hair and like bell-bottom jeans, what have you. That sound gets exported to England, where it gets basically prophetized upon, and by brilliant entrepreneurs like Vivian Westwood and Malcolm McLaren, who see and understand and utilize it, and then all of a sudden in England, God bless England, and I'm not saying that there's no authentic punk rock bands, but that's what leads to what's known as 77 style punk, where it becomes the standardized fashion, multicolored mohawks, leather jackets, combat boots, safety pin jewelry. That becomes the standardized punk rock, what punk rock is supposed to be. And it was that 1975, it was that 77 style punk that ended up coming back in the 20-year nostalgia loop and hitting big in 1995 through 1997 with groups like, Green Day and Rancid, and even, though that there were bands that came before that became, part of it, like fucking A, like, those fucking punk bands, Offspring, whatever have you. But if you use the 20 nostalgia loop that we see solidly gets us from that 1990, that 75 to 77 original punk vibe, when we see that the 20-year nostalgia loop wraps up perfectly to 1995, 1997, where America goes punk rock crazy and Europe goes punk rock crazy again, we see using that same 20-year nostalgia loop and rolling it back to get to 90 to 92, we get from to 70 72. And if you go from if you look at the music, the rock and roll music of 1970 72, and you use that as a comparison point to the sounds and the stylistic endeavors of what was happening with the so-called alternative rock revolution, you see that there's no revolution. It is just a repetition of 1970s cock rock. That's all it fucking is. It's rock and roll music any way you use it. It's got no connection, no authentic connection to any sort of political stance from punk rock or the so-called college rock scene. It's not. It comes out of heavy metal. It comes out of hard rock. And so the actual the notion that alternative rock took over the mainstream is erroneous. You just see a 20-year repetition of going from light to dark, from the 1960s flower power hippies, everything is beautiful, let's take acid and marijuana, to the 1970s, things are bleak. The Vietnam War did not stop immediately when people thought that it would stop. Talk about the hippies got out there in Woodstock in 1968 and 69 to start the war. The war did not end. The Vietnam War did not end until 1975, when most of the original hippies had given up any hope of really making a distinct difference in the world, had given up any hope of really truly being able to quote unquote end the war. The war ended as all wars end, by kind of this kind of like economic attrition. And that's what you get. What happened with Nirvana and all that stuff? If you go back to the 1970s, 70, 72, going into 75, you see an onset of ennui and darkness. The likes of the Beatles breaking up, Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison passing away. And where does the torch lead from those bands? To more hippies, everything's beautiful, man? No. It gets distinctly dark. You get Black Sabbath's first record coming out in 1969. You have Led Zeppelin becoming increasingly aggressive and dark. You have Pink Floyd going from singing songs about like fucking, drip, drip, dun, 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 whatever the fuck, the intergalactic generator. I forget all the names of these songs. You know what I mean? And getting increasing till you get to the 73 Dark Side of the Moon, culminating in The Wall in 1979, which is a fucking bad trip, man. And you wrap that up 20 years, and then you see exactly what's going on. This is no connection to any sort of alternative. It's no connection to anything except all American hard rock, heavy metal, all English hard rock, heavy metal. And it is what it is. And we'll go through it. So having laid that out, having kind of dealt, we'll call that the introduction. We'll call that the introduction. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly go through my notes from top to bottom. It's going to be repetitious from what I introduced you to, because my introduction is based upon thinking about this for a couple of days and has been based upon making these fucking notes today. So I apologize, don't apologize. Zickafoos 2020 says CW Chanter Cobain pulling from the Vaselines. He name checks the Vaselines, right? That's the thing. If you make a distinction between what people say that they're into personally, what they actually sound like, you see that Nirvana's Nevermind is a rock and is Astronomy Domine was the Pink Floyd track I was citing. Thank you so much, Synthetic Rebellion. Astronomy Domine from the mid 1960s was covered by Voivod, heavy metal thrash metal band out of Canada, Canada. There you go. In the mid 1980s, the 20 nostalgia loop holds. So here we go. Vanessa Thor says that's Zickafoos 2020. All caps for CW after his music elitist rant. It's not elitist. For the love of Christmas. Did I say that Nirvana sucked? Did I say that Kurt Cobain shouldn't have made the songs that he did? Or if you like Nirvana, you're an asshole? No. But it's saying a deconstruction of it. Zickafoos 2020 says CW Chanter, Green Day lived in Flipper's house in Oakland. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. We're not saying, but then again, I did not say that they were not quote unquote punk rock. But then again, if you follow the 20-year nostalgia loop, by the time they end up where they end up, the same thing happens to punk rock that happened to rock and roll in the first place, which it turns into progressive nonsense. It turns into overinflated, overindulgent, rock opera bullshit. Remember, Green Day ended up creating a fucking musical on Broadway. Understand that. Understand that. No, it's cool. It is what it is. There you go. There you go. So let me just start at the beginning. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to go to the bottom. And then I will look to the live chat, depending on what time we've got, and we'll hang out a little and we'll talk about it. Grunge, alternative. Revolution was not alternative at all, but rather metal. Okay. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains were all stylistically hard rock metal, not alternative. I will point out that when Alice in Chains came out onto the scene prior to Pearl Jam, Nirvana, or Soundgarden. No, this is important to understand. This is an important distinction. Let's do it like this. Nirvana are the strange nut we have to crack. What's not strange to understand is Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam are a band called Mother Love Bone with a different lead singer. There was a group called Mother Love Bone coming out of Seattle. They were supposed to be major label debut. They were supposed to be the band that was going to break the quote-unquote Seattle scene. They had a lead singer who was basically kind of like in the style of, he was a flamboyant, beautiful man, and he was a lead singer in the style of fucking who? Steven Tyler, Robert Plant, and really, to be completely honest, because I have the first Mother Love Bone. I bought the first Mother Love Bone album on tape, Apple. I bought it on tape. Came out in 1990, to the best of my remembrance. And the lead singer's in the style of fucking Steven Tyler, right? I want to talk to you about the things that I'm singing about. You know what I mean? It's fucking hard rock. There's very little daylight, maybe in lyrical content and attitude. They weren't like Poison, like, woo, wearing pink, rock and roll animal, wanna have sex with you and you and you. Do, Poison, right? They weren't Poison per se. But are you going to tell me that there was a real daylight between the sound of Mother Love Bone and the sound of the first LA Guns record or Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction? Absolutely fucking not. It's hard rock heavy metal all the fucking way, all night fucking long. That dude drops dead of a heroin overdose. They replace him with Eddie Vedder and become Pearl Jam. Congratulations. And Eddie Vedder doesn't look. That's what we're going to get to. You take off the makeup, you put on t-shirts and ripped jeans, and then we're supposed to believe that some sort of revolution has happened. That is superficial. Eddie Vedder is fronting a hard rock band. There's no connection stylistically or musically to any sort of alternative anything. It's all mainstream, all American rock and fucking roll. Sounds like the fucking James Gang. It sounds like fucking Jim Dandy and fucking who's that fucking group? They're good. When the electricity came to Arkansas, Black Oak, Arkansas. There's more connection. There is more connection. This is a fact. Anyone, you can't. This is an objective fact. Musically, there is more in common with Pearl Jam and motherfucking ZZ Top than there'll ever be between Pearl Jam and the Dead Kennedys, between Pearl Jam and the Modern Lovers, between Pearl Jam and Patti Smith. Fuck you, alternative. Alternative bullshit, and it's provable. It's historically provable. Alice in Chains, when Alice in Chains and Soundgarden hit the scene before Nirvana and Pearl Jam. Alice in Chains and Soundgarden both did not debut on 120 Minutes, the MTV alternative rock thing on a Sunday night. They both debuted on Headbangers Ball on Saturday night. They did. Alice in Chains' first national tour was opening up on what was known as the Titans of Metal tour. I saw them. I thought they rocked. The audience made fun of them all night fucking long. When Man in the Box came out, it debuted on Headbangers Ball, and they were posited and they were put forward as a heavy metal group. They were. And what's the difference between Alice in Chains and Soundgarden? And when Soundgarden came out, you know where their song debuted, where their video for Loud Love debuted? It wasn't on 120 Minutes. It was on Headbangers fucking Ball. And Soundgarden, if you're going to tell me that Bad Motorfinger is not a fucking metal record, and I'm going to tell you, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and Nirvana, the so-called alternative revolution, the audience base, the majority audience base of all of those groups were the same majority base of the groups were the fan who were previously in a previous generation, the fans of fucking, Whitesnake, right? And Aerosmith. To say nothing of Metallica. We should put Metallica in there too. We're going to make that point. Hold on. Oh, I got that here. These are objective musical fucking facts. We've been lied to, and you've been lied to, and part of the lie is the notion that there was a deepening of American youth culture in the 90s, and it couldn't be further from the fucking truth. It was a fashion stylistic change. That's it. And where does it come from? It comes from the major fucking labels who choose who gets promoted. This alternative rock revolution. Like there wasn't a fucking push by these major labels prior to the so-called alternative revolution happening to make the alternative revolution happen. It had nothing to do with the youth saying, oh man, we're so sick and tired of Warrant and Poison and Bon Jovi. The major labels said, sales are flagging a little. Maybe we'll do something different here. And you have to tell Bobby, Sue, and Jimmy that they've got something different than their older brothers and sisters had. That they can distinguish their generation. And certainly make sure that their generation is distinguished from their parents. God forbid you end up listening to the same shit as your parents, right? That's a sad day in teenage land, right? Get out your gold lame jeans, man, if you fucking shoot yourself in the head. Oh, my God. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden were posited and pushed as heavy metal groups before the so-called Seattle alternative rock revolution happened. Pearl Jam, same thing. They were a hard rock band called Mother Love Bone. Lead singer died. They replaced him with a darker guy. Fine, absolutely good for you. I'm not saying these bands suck. 10 is a great fucking record. I grew up on that record. It's an awesome record. But I can listen to it now and understand that it's got more connection between to Led Zeppelin and ZZ Top than has anything to do quote unquote alternative. And Nirvana, same goddamn thing. It's riff rock. Smells Like Teen Spirit. And the absence of cogent lyrics does not equal depth. We'll get there. Another provable fact. I mentioned the distinction of using as cultural references and points of analysis. MTV's competing youth culture, subculture shows, their special video blocks for their specialized music, right? Which, of course, doesn't include Afro-American or Latin American, Latino American culture. Latino American culture in 1992 had absolutely no fucking space on MTV. No space. Does that mean that there weren't Latino artists in America doing artistic work? Of course not. But was there anything that ended up on MTV? Bullshit, nothing. Zikafoos 2020 with a donation of $2. God bless you. God bless you. Columbia House, penny stock CDs, lol. There you go. Right? Selena's allowed to get on VH1 once she gets fucking capped and they're making a biopic after her. And of course, once she sings in English. Starting in 1990, you could see stylistic changes within heavy metal and the hard rock scene on Headbangers Ball, introducing radically different sounds. This was not the case with alternative rock, where I can tell you, having seen 120 minutes from like 1987, 88 on through the whole alternative rock revolution, there was no real stylistic change in those groups. I mean, sure, they play an industrial band every once in a while, right? But for the most part, it was par for the course. Jangly guitars, pop song structures, and sometimes wacky things like They Might Be Giants, right? But it's pretty much the same artists. It's pretty much an Anglo-centric, right? England equals culturally progressive and effete. Again, alternative rock, 120 minutes. Good luck finding a band that didn't sing in English there. The Cure, the Smiths, etc., etc. But if we go to 1990, look at 1990 in music. And look at Headbangers Ball, what was playing on Headbangers Ball, where the stylistic changes were not prevalent on 120 minutes of the same jangly so-called college rock sound that had basically been static since 1982, right? Oh, hardcore did not get played on 120 minutes. When Biohazard, Agnostic Front, when those groups started releasing records, when the hardcore punk bands started releasing videos, Cro-Mags, those videos were not played on 120 minutes. Those videos were played exclusively where? Headbangers Ball. Because it was quote unquote heavy music. Not quote unquote, it was heavy fucking music. You would see on 120 on Headbangers Ball, you saw the debut of Jane's Addiction. Let's talk about Jane's. I'm going to talk about these things going through in particular, but I'll just throw it out there. Jane's Addiction, Primus, Metallica, Soundgarden, Guns N' Roses. What is the point of making these points here? To say that what killed Warrant, Cinderella, and hair metal as it was known in the United States, was not an outside force. It was the same changing of the guard that happens every generation within scenes. The hard rock, heavy metal, the hair metal bands of the mid to late 80s were not replaced by an outside invasion of alternative rockers. They were replaced from within by what was the change? What indicated the change? A move to darker themes, a move to grittier, more realistic themes, lack of color, right? Look at Guns N' Roses compared to Poison. What happens? What's the real change? The color is sucked out of the picture. Pink, fluorescence, out of here. Black, occasionally groups like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, right? Dressing real. That was already happening. Look at Metallica. The hard rock, hair metal bands were brought down from within. If you go back to music magazines like Rip, Circus, Hit Parader, etc., that covered that scene, you would see over time the bands like Metallica and Metal Church. They started off in a far corner of that magazine, right? Guys that might do something. My connection is unstable. I'm being taken up by big hair metal. I'm trying to help hair metal here. Nev Mass says, love Primus. Primus and Fish were my soundtrack for the 90s. Forget Fish, which is just a recycling of the 1960s, right? But anyway, we'll get there. Oh, 20-year nostalgia loop. Sixth Design. Welcome back, bitch. Says Ricky Rockman bringing back Headbangers Ball May 30th, 2020. But remember, that's the second revival of Headbangers Ball. They brought back Headbangers Ball originally in 2002. What was 20 years before 2002? It was 1982. When I believe, well, MTV wasn't a thing yet, right? Not yet, but it was coming out there. So the change was within the hard rock, heavy metal prevalent youth community. It's the American rock and roll community. It's mainstream American rock and roll. The alternative tag is a selling point, and it's a lie. It's not true, but we'll get there. So starting in 1999, you could see stylistic changes within heavy metal hard rock scene, introducing radically different sounds. This was not the case in alternative. In the heavy metal world, we have Jane's Addiction, which were billed as a heavy metal band. Mountain Song debuted not on the 120 Minutes, but Headbangers Ball. Primus, Metallica, yes, Soundgarden, and GNR. The change was afoot from within. The Authenticity Olympics, which is just a move to dark depression, equals real. Happiness and fun times equals poofta, equals gay, equals lame, equals we got to get rid of that shit, man. Jane's Addiction, when Jane's Addiction first came out, when Nothing Shocking was being pushed, they were not pushed as the new Velvet Underground. They were not pushed as the new REM. They were not pushed as the new Talking Heads. What were they pushed as? Synthetic Rebellion says Jane's Addiction, I believe, were on both Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes. We need to make the distinction between the first record that featured a video, which was Nothing Shocking, and the second one. Not the second, was the third album, Ritual de lo Habitual, right? Which was played on both. But we get there. But when Jane's Addiction first come out, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Look to Devin Shovel said, I don't think you understand. I'm not saying that they didn't get played on MTV. So here we go. I can't take care of everybody who might be misunderstanding me. It's just the way that it goes. We got to move forward. When Jane's Addiction, you can go back. The primary text for what I'm saying here exists. You can go back and you can see the rock magazines. You can see the press releases. You can see the statements on MTV from Kurt Loder regarding James. They were not billed as the new Velvet Underground. They were not billed as the new Talking Heads. They were billed as the new Led Zeppelin. And if you listen to Nothing Shocking, it's Led Zeppelin inspired metal and hard rock. Primus were allowed on Headbangers Ball and were adopted by the heavy metal community. Don't forget, many years prior to Nirvana's Nevermind coming out, Faith No More, a metal band by any stretch of the imagination, had already had a quote unquote alternative hit with Epic, right? With Bjork's Goldfish being sacrificed, Illuminati sacrificed, right? Therefore, the conclusions of the documentary 1992, The Year That Punk Broke, are erroneous. The success of Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, etc., do not represent any sort of success or breaking through of anything stylistically and truly kind of culturally connected to punk rock. It was all 1970s cock rock. Even if you go back in the day, who is the godfather of grunge? People type in. I say, who was the godfather of grunge? And who did they say was the godfather of grunge? Who did they say was the godfather of grunge? Oh, wait. See if the live chat picks up on what I'm putting down. Neil Young! The Lloyd comes right out of it. The Neil Young. Who is the godfather of grunge? Neil Young. Where did Neil Young come from? Where did he have his biggest hits? The early 1970s, Unnamed Agent, Mudhoney. No, Godfathers, not members of grunge. The Godfathers of grunge. It was Neil Young. That's what it is. It's not Lou Reed. It's not Patti Smith. It's certainly not Jonathan Richman. It's Neil fucking Young. That's what those groups sound like. They don't sound anything like anything alternative. They don't sound like they're influenced by the Talking Heads or Grace Jones or Patti Smith. They sound exactly like who they sound like. Altruism Grace Media says, CW Chanter, I'd like to know your opinion on dungeon synth music. My analysis of dungeon synth music will come in a few weeks. I love dungeon synth. I love dungeon synth. I love dungeon synth, and I was a fan of dungeon synth when dungeon synth had one fucking artist in there and one artist only. And that person was Mortis, right? Did you know back in the day, All Hail New Jersey, the Holy Land, the official Mortis fan club, this is going back. This is fucking info from 1995. The first official Mortis fan club was in New Jersey. If I'm lying, I'm fucking dying. There you go. Anywho, therefore, conclusions of the documentary 1992, The Year the Punk Broke, are erroneous, as well as popular opinion, also erroneous, that alternative did not take over mainstream rock, which was heavy metal by the 1990s. In the early 1990s, what was the prevalent dominant form of rock and roll music in America? Still defining dominant youth culture music as the youth culture music of the white kids. Not to say that there's no brothers and sisters who liked rock and roll music, but you know what I'm saying. Let's not get into semantics. Zikafoos 2020 with a donation of $2. Grunge is Planet Caravan by Sabbath. Grunge wishes. Oh, we were talking about bands that came out and were changing the sound already in heavy metal, hard rock prior to any sort of alternative rock revolution. Let's look at Pantera, who started off as a hair metal band, and by the time they recorded their breakthrough record, Cowboys in Hell, had shaved parts of their hair and were dressing like Metallica. There you go. We got Dungeon Synth references, Dungeon Synth from New Jersey. All right. That guy owes me money. Anyway, mainstream rock went under a stylistic, mainly fashion and themes trend change in the 1990s, light to dark, and that's all that happened. That's all that happened. 20-year nostalgia loop, the 1960s, the 1970s. If we look at what was happening in the late 80s with the culmination and the ultimate manifestation of the so-called hair metal or glam metal scene in America, that was happening at its apex in, say, 88, 89. By 90, as we've already seen, you can look at the playlist from Headbangers Ball going back to 1990. It was already over. Warrant were not taken down by Nirvana. Warrant were taken down from within by Metallica, Pantera, Primus, and Soundgarden. It happened from within. There was no exporting in of countercultural ideas from the outside. If you look back, it's from 1988, 89, go back, it's 1968, 69. If you're going to San Francisco, you go forward a couple of years and you get Neil Young saying real shit about what's really going down. Things get darker. The music gets darker. Led Zeppelin, whole lot of love. It's hard to imagine, right? Vietnam getting shelled or the tanks going through Vietnam in country, blasting All You Need Is Love or even Day Tripper by the fucking Beatles. But Whole Lot of Love was famously played by the fucking GIs as they were going in to fucking kill people. 1975, 77, punk rock. You get to 1995, 97 when punk rock really broke. And when it broke as a fashion trend. It broke as a fashion trend. Green and blue hair, right? Mohican hairdos, right? Along with all sorts of commercialized accoutrement glommed onto it as well. Gotta get a skateboard, man. Woo! Surf's up. Political proofs. This is my political proofs that no revolution actually happened in alternative rock. Nothing changed. The kids in America did not wake up and become enlightened and all of a sudden become into like college rock and like politics and shit, man. Remember the Nirvana song, Polly being involved in a sex assault where a woman was gang raped as her attackers sang the lyrics to Polly off Nirvana's Nevermind. It's an indication that the underlying culture did not fucking change. I was at Soundgarden shows circa like 92, 93, right? I was at Metallica shows circa 92, 93, and 89. I saw Slayer. I saw a whole bunch of fucking bands. And, I can tell you, that culturally, the distinction between any of these audiences was fucking nil. Sonic proofs. The jangly riffs of alternative rock, college rock, epitomized by groups like mega groups like U2, anytime prior to Zeropa. REM and The Cure was the sound of 120 minutes and was the sound of 120 minutes before Nirvana and all those groups, and it was during that so-called alternative rock revolution, and it remained so. And you have to remember that when we're talking about this alternative rock revolution, years count. So if by the time we get to 95 and you have 120 minutes of spawned quote unquote alternative nation and there's all this stuff, it's still just at that point it's fucking pop rock, right? And this is not me making any statement about the value of the music, whether it was creative, whether it was artistic, whether it was worth listening to, whether it was good. Synthetic Rebellion says, I remember seeing Smashing Pumpkins and Billy Corgan was talking about frat boys with backwards hats on. Right. And when we talk about Smashing Pumpkins, realize they're a perfect example of the 20-year nostalgia loop, right? From Gish, even just calling a record Gish and having a song called, Shiva and all that stuff. That stuff, it's just psychedelic rock. It's just a rewind. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat on the fucking 20-year nostalgia loop. What do they call that thing? The wheel. It's not a gerbil wheel. Hamster wheel. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a hamster on a fucking wheel. Motherfucker. 20-year nostalgia loop, 60s to 70s, acid, weed, into the 70s, heroin, mirrored in hard rock metamorphosis to thrash, death, and grunge. 1980-90, end of glam hard rock stage. Go back to 1969, the first Black Sabbath record, Led Zeppelin, and birth of heavy metal. End of the Beatles, start of dark psychedelia. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon comes out in 93. 20 years later, we're at the height of alternative rock, so-called alternative rock. In 1993. That's a perfect example. Dark Side of the Moon. They go to the dark side of the moon in more ways than one. Right? 68, 69. Turn on, tune in. We're going to change this. Better living through chemistry. Everything's golden, man. Sugar Magnolia. Do. I like you and you love me too. To 1973. Right? Time. Dark Side of the Moon is a beautiful record, but it is a fucking dark trip, man. The Pop Mirror, I want to mention this. 1992, 1972, 20 years prior to 1992, female singer-songwriters abound. So here's what ends up happening. So as this is happening, what we're discussing is what you need to know is that, and it can cause confusion. What I'm discussing is superficial changes happening within the milieu of the most popular form of music, even still at that time in the 90s, which was rock music in the kind of the first world. Okay? At the same time that we're having these discussions about rock music, there are other things. So when people talk about this alternative revolution, oftentimes what will happen is they'll conflate things and they'll look at different things happening in pop music and say, and it's the same thing. It's the fashions change. The lyrical content changes, but the music remains the same. Right? And the people that are making the money are still the people making the money. So you get to Lilith Fair. Oh, it's organized by the Indigo Girls or Sarah McLachlan or whoever. God bless the Indigo Girls. God bless Sarah McLachlan. God bless Melissa Etheridge, etc., etc. God bless Jewel and every other vagina with a guitar. God bless you. Goddess bless you. The people that made the most money off Lilith Fair were old white dudes at Coca-Cola Corporation and at Ticketmaster and at the major record labels. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Deal with it. Alt hit breakouts never stopped since beginning. Blondie, Talking Heads, The Cure, REM, etc. Meaning that they talk about this so-called rock and roll alternative rock revolution. The Cure had a hit song with Just Like Heaven. REM had like countless songs that were hits before Nirvana hit. You even had minor hits coming out of groups like even Joy Division had a minor hit with Level Tears Apart. So it's just what I'm saying, man. Is this, there was no fucking revolution. Now I'm gonna slam on Nirvana. Then I'll mention Alice Cooper and the Sex Pistols, and then we'll mentioning Neil Young. A lot of this shit's repetitive. I don't give a fuck. I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. And then I'll look at the live chat. We've been here for 15. You know what? I'm not even going to slam Nirvana. I'll just read my notes and we'll just have it be that. Nirvana. Bizarre or nonsense lyrics do not equate to meaningful lyrics. You heard the people say when Kurt Cobain killed himself, oh, he was the voice of a generation. No, he wasn't. Because the voice of a generation, if he was the voice of the generation, then in the 90s had no voice because he had no fucking voice. I've looked at the lyrics of Kurt Cobain. You know what I mean? And I'm not one of these guys like, oh, if it's an abstract lyric, it fucking sucks. No, these fucking lyrics are fucking stupid. Polly want a cracker. Maybe I should get off her first. She wants a fucking blowtorch. All that fucking. I'm a mosquito. My libido. Rockafito. Eat a Dorito. It's fucking stupid. It's stupid. The lyrics are stupid. They're stupid. Fucking stupid. And people be like, the man who fell to earth or whatever. Fucking the man who sold the world. I'm like, yeah, David Bowie wrote that song. Asshole. They wanted to have a voice of a generation. 25 Dads, I disagree with you on that. Name me your favorite Nirvana lyric. Blew your fucking mind. Name me a fucking Nirvana lyric that blew your fucking mind where you said to yourself, that right there, that line, that is 1993. For me and my friends, right? 10 years before 9/11, before the bullshit with Columbine happened, where we were just out there, caught in the fucking wasteland. That line, right? Lee Westlake writes, genre tags aside, do you think lyrical intellectualism is a key factor in the creation of a uniquely enduring band? Iron Maiden, Steve Harris in particular comes immediately to mind. I don't. See, here, the only thing that I'm saying is that if they had never referred to Kurt Cobain as the voice of a generation, I wouldn't have been voicing these complaints because I have no problem with abstract lyrics. I love Rose Joy with a donation of $9.99 because you make me laugh. Thank you for your donation. God bless you. God bless you for your continued financial support. It does make a difference. For example, I love the Butthole Surfers, right? I love the Butthole Surfers. I love Gibby Haynes and the Butthole Surfers. Those lyrics don't make a lot of sense, a lot of them. They still rock. They still fucking rock. But not all of them make sense. You know, some of them are quite literal, right? I saw an X-ray of a girl passing gas. Like a donut with a halo storm in it coming out of the south. Johnny Smoke. The fucking ball surfers rocked. Oh, here's Zikafoos. Here's Zikafoos with 2020 with a line. Fair use, transformative work. One baby to another says, I'm lucky to have met you. I don't care what you think, unless it is about melt is now my duty to completely drain you. I think hold on. I think I got that wrong. One baby to another said, I am lucky to have met you. I don't care what you think unless it is about me. It is now my duty to completely drain you. Wow. That's wow. Holy shit. That's your best. Look at the lyrics of the collected lyrics of Leonard Cohen. The Nirvana lyrics are trash. He was a fucking guy. And they got Drain You is good songwriting? Fuck you, Drain You is good songwriting. If you think that Drain, and then we also have someone mentioning that John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin produced what was it, Independent Worm Saloon by the Butthole Surface, one of their worst records, actually. One of their worst records. Unnamed Agent Leonard Cohen has 4 good songs. At least he's got 4 of them. Oh my god. The Lloyd keeps on writing this. Okay, here we go. The Misfits revived their career 20 years after they were formed after big rock metal bands covered their songs in Danzig's solo career. Yes, okay. Now I've read your live chat. You can stop typing. I get it. Red Hot Caster Vaughn says Red Hot Chili Peppers great lyrics. You're talking about you're getting to Red Hot Chili Peppers circa the fuck was that record? Blood Sugar Sex Magic is when they started writing anything that we considered a good lyric. And let me ask you about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And this is the point about alternative rock music being it's a genre fucking tag that's got nothing to do with music. Where do the Red Hot Chili Peppers belong with lyrics like Catholic high school girls rule? Do they belong lumped in with Poison, right? And Y&T, or do they belong lumped in with REM and the Pixies? Peasant Media says, just ask Mike Patton about Anthony Kiedis' skills. Anthony Kiedis, yeah, no, listen, Lee Velman, the Foo Fighters. This is exactly what I'm saying about with Nirvana not being any sort of alternative or punk rock music, but just being mainstream all-American hard rock. The minute fucking Kurt Cobain dies, Dave Grohl comes out from behind the back of the comes from behind the fucking drum set and plays fucking the food. There's a direct line. There might not be a direct line of correlation and connection between Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, etc., and fucking Crass, or or the Modern Lovers, or the Talking Heads, right, or Patti Smith, or anything remotely punk rock. But there's absolutely a direct line of connection and causation between the fucking Foo Fighters, who are an abortion, and fucking Nickelback. The road to fucking Creed starts with the fucking Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl can eat a dick. Dave Grohl can dine upon cock for what he did to American mainstream music. He didn't do anything. He was part of the whole thing. He rode the wave. That which can be this is going back to my discussion about Nirvana lyrics. That which can be projected upon is not necessarily content rich. Not the voice of a generation. If so, no voice is presented. And I wrote major label agenda, but that's conspiracy theory bullshit. Alice Cooper, when the Sex Pistols started, Johnny Lydon, aka Johnny Rotten, was auditioned for the part of lead singer by singing along to Alice Cooper's 18. The point being, there's no revolution even in punk rock. 20-year nostalgia loop. 1955, 1954, 1955, the dawn of rock and roll. 1964, 65, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Revolver. You have the ostentatious, trappings of rock and roll becoming more and more flourished, more and more ornate, leading to the stylistic dead end that is quote unquote progressive rock, that is so-called done away with by the revolution of punk rock music like the Ramones and the Clash. Right? What are the Clash and the Ramones? What's revolutionary about the sound of the Ramones? Even their look is a throwback to 20 years earlier to American 1950s greaser culture, right? Sniffing glue was nothing new in 1975. Dangerous, crazy fashion choices and music choices that made your parents worry about what are the kids doing today? It's so aggressive. It's going to lead to juvenile delinquency. You call that music? It's just noise. Don't believe in anything. Don't believe in anything. It is all just modern music that is bought and sold is a commodity culture. That's all it is. There's no revolutions there. It just is what it is. 25 Dads writes, My Chemical Romance. What about My Chemical Romance? I'll tell you exactly about My Chemical Romance. First of all, My Chemical Romance were from New Jersey. I had friends that used to hang out with them, honestly. Here we go. We'll go to the Wikipedia and then we'll deconstruct My Chemical Romance and I'll tell you exactly what's happening with them. And all I needed to know about is the 20-year nostalgia loop. Early career, 2001 to 2002. Okay, so what was happening 20 years prior? That would be 1981, 82. Oh, heavy metal bands in LA like Wasp, Motley Crue, Hanoi Rocks. There you go. Glam metal. The beginning of glam metal. That's it. Right there. Boom. Major label signing and Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge 2003 to 2006, 1983 to 86, the heyday of hard rock hair metal in America. The Black Parade, where all of a sudden it gets like real serious and shit. Because they were always dressed in black. My Chemical Romance, like it's like if like the fucking Inky Binky and Blue from fucking The Nightmare Before Christmas was that Lock, Stock, and Barrel. It's like if they grew up and were in a band, right? That's all they are. It's like a fucking Danny Elfman nightmare. No, not Danny Elfman. Who's the ringleader of that bullshit? Tim Burton. I love Tim Burton. Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys from 2009 to 2011. I've never even heard this record, but I guarantee you that's where they go fucking rock opera. I guarantee you that's where they go fucking highfalutin. Was 2009 to 2011. Even the length of the fucking title indicates to me. And if you go there, 1989 it would be 1989 to 1991. That's Queensryche recording Operation Mindcrime. Yada yada yada. And they reunited in 2019. Wow. They reunited in 2019 and their earlier career was in 2001, 2002. Yeah. 20-year nostalgia loop. Musical styles and influences. This is according to Wikipedia. My Chemical Romance's general style has been categorized as alternative rock, pop punk, post-hardcore, punk rock, emo pop, hard rock, hardcore punk, gothic rock, pop rock, arena rock, glam rock, and heavy metal. Glam rock and heavy metal. Everything else is thrown in there to make sure that you think that it's something new and exciting. To make sure you don't think that it's anything fucking even remotely connected to Poison. I hate Papa Roach. And in case you're fucking curious, in 2020, go check it out. What's happening in heavy metal today? What's happening in heavy metal today? There's a revival of what? Can you believe this shit? I can because I know about the 20-year nostalgia loop. The latest thing happening in the world of heavy metal is a resurgence, a new generation of motherfucking new metal bands. Oh, shit. Baz with a donation of $50 Australian. God bless you. Goddess bless you, Baz. God bless you. Goddess bless you, Baz. Lights and Legals. Lights and Legals was the 2010 rock opera by Yellow Card. God bless you. Goddess bless you. Thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much for the donation. Good quote by Lee Westlake. I won't read it out loud just because I don't want to be cited. Zikafoos 2020 says Jandik is 90s. The first Jandik record came out in 1972, maybe even. I'm sorry, it was People Around the House, and it's so sad that he came out in public. It really was. That was just like everything you know will be taken away from you, right? Everything you know will be taken away from you. You can't even believe in Jandik, right? Jandik came out. Oh my god. Um, First Jandik record attributed to the Units came out in 1978. Can't even believe in Jandik. And look at the live chat. Blah 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 blah. Thank you, Sixes Design, for catching that live chat donation. I missed it initially because I was looking at Wikipedia. I was looking at the Wikipedia entry on My Chemical Romance. Jesus fucking Christ. Sanitarium Radio. Shut the fuck up, you Darcy. Corn is my heart. Oh God. God bless you. Sometimes I want to sing like this and Corn. God bless Corn. God bless Corn. Vanessa Thor says resurgence of female-led death metal. It's not a resurgence. That's actually okay. So that goes back to prior to Evanescence. Here's what happened, and we'll end on this because this is a topic in and of itself that I can cover. Honestly, post 2000. This is leaving. This might be. You can tell me if you're interested in this at all as a subject matter, and then we're gonna wrap it up. We're at an hour and 16 minutes. And we did great work here today. I spoke Bible truth, and because I spoke Bible truth about something real instead of talking bullshit about bullshitters who bullshit, we had a smattering of live stream attendees. Not that matters. We do what we do because we do it, and because it's important to be done, not because we're looking for those fucking views. Anyway. So what ended up happening? Unnamed Agent says except Cobain was a good songwriter. Cobain was not a good songwriter. We've been over this. It's just no matter. I get it. You had the record when you were a kid. Here's what happens. Here's what happens with groups like Nirvana, and it's happened before. It'll happen again. Zikafoos 2020 says those Nirvana lyrics I posted were what I think of as the 90s, and during when that time came out, I think you were 13 to 15 years old, and you were going through some shit, and those records were there, and they sounded good, so you played them a lot. And he emoted, so it means something, and it's music. And I'm not saying that those records shouldn't exist. And I've got a copy of Nirvana. I had a copy of Nirvana on cassette, and I upgraded to CD. Right? It's on my iTunes. You know what I mean? I just don't think that he's a good lyricist, and I don't think it's in any way, shape, or form alternative music. It's hard rock, heavy metal. It just is. It just is. And I love heavy metal. When we get to the female-led death metal bands, here's what happened in 2000. So in 2000, you're looking back, the 20-year nostalgia loop is looking back to the 1980 and beyond. So it's a repeat of a repeat. 1980s were already oversaturated with nostalgia culture. So we have nostalgia for nostalgia, and everything gets warped and twisted. And it has to do with the evolution from new metal. So here's how it goes. Here's the stylistic trend of late 90s, late 90s through the 2000s, and it's still with us because everything becomes looped up. And at 2020, we're just looping back to 2000. So here's the deal. In the absence of true musical evolution, where change and transformation stylistically occurs at all levels: guitar tone, synthesizer tone, song structure, lyrical content, visual presentation, where unique musical artists are presenting unique musical statements that are distinguishable from what came before. When everything has been done so much that you can no longer look, guitar, bass, drums, rock and roll music has stylistic, I think, has built-in limitations that have been reached. It's the same thing with big band jazz, right? There's no new big band jazz. Any big band jazz is by definition making big band jazz music, which always sounds like that fucking shit, like that Benny Goodman stuff, right? Like it or lump it. So what ended up happening was that people, in order to create, they couldn't meld things organically. So what they ended up doing was they A-B things. It's a cut up. So when you get to the new metal, you have, it happens, let's look at Limp Bizkit as a perfect example. So you don't have things fusing organically. The members of Limp Bizkit do not look like each other. The content of an average Limp Bizkit song doesn't work with each other. They're disparate elements that don't fuse. The keyboardist DJ, what was it, DJ Mayhem or DJ Muggs or whatever the fuck he used to be in House of Pain, is not able to really kind of jam with River on bass, or that fucking the weirdo on guitar, or the the drummer, the fat guy, right? So what ends up happening is that you have these things. It's the same thing with the fashion of Limp Bizkit, right? Fred Durst looks like he's a rapper, right? And he wants to rap, and he mixes this, and he does sounds like that, and he does this, and it's like I'm rapping over a rock tune, right? And meanwhile, you have the fucking you want the heavy metal, weird abstract heavy metal thing. So you have the fucking guitarist with like Lance Hendrickson, whatever the fuck his name was, acting like he's in fucking Marilyn Manson when he's in fucking Limp Bizkit, right? And you have River, who can actually is a decent bass player, but he's doing the and it's just this amalgamation of styles that don't fuse. At least with Korn, things fuse together. You have the guys with long hair wearing the tracksuits, right? And the guy, the fieldy, the bass player, the hip hop guy, has got the reverse like baseball cap on, so he's hip hop, and the white socks pulled up all the way with the Vans, so he's hip hop. But he's in the band. It's like there's not like a real distinction. You can see what's going on. They got Cholo on drums. It's all working, right? It's more musically amalgamated. But what ends up happening is that it's hard to do. So you have things that go back and forth. They A-B, and that's what happened. The culmination of it, the real breakthrough was Evanescence with that song like Bring Me to Life. And then all of a sudden that became the stylistic trend where in order to have pop structures but also have kind of death metal or black metal credibility, you can't get those things to fuse together. They don't work together. So you go back and forth. The girl comes out and sings like this, and the last thing she'll say is something about love. And then all of a sudden, the guy comes in, jumps in, and goes, talk about love, blah, 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 da, da, da. I don't know what, blah, blah, blah. And he's doing the male thing. And then all of a sudden, 311 did it all the time, where the guy singing, da, 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 singing a song about singing. And then all of a sudden, the rapper would come in and do a fucking, rap bar, 16 bars, and then they go back and forth like this bullshit. There's no amalgamation. There's no organic fusion because it's not organic. It's we want to achieve this goal. We want to be a black death metal, modern evolution of brutality band, but we also want to fucking put buns in the seats and let people sing along. And here's the other dirty little secret about modern metal. So many of these female-fronted metal bands, it's a fucking porno show. It's a fucking porno show. You want the kids to listen to heavy metal, right? And buy fucking CDs. Well, no one buys CDs anymore, so you got to get them out to the show. So what's more anathema to extreme metal than women? I'm sorry. Am I saying that there were no women at extreme metal shows? Not saying that at all. Right? But nowadays, you go, 90% of the women in an extreme metal show are on fucking stage with half their ass fucking hanging out and certainly their belly showing, right? Anyway, modern music fucking sucks and you fucking bastards can eat a dick. I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. That's our show for tonight. I love you. I love you. I love you. Mini Meat Min says, I missed most of the stream. Can anyone catch me up easy or do I need to watch from the beginning? Nirvana sucks. There was no alternative rock revolution. Let me do this. You want I'll catch you up, girl. I'll catch you up, Mini Mints. Here we go. Grunge alternative revolution was not alternative, but rather metal. Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains were all stylistically hard rock and metal, not alternative. Starting in 1990, you could see stylistic changes within heavy metal hard rock scene, introducing radically different sounds. This was not the case with alternative music. James Addiction, Primus, Metallica, Soundgarden, etc., Guns N' Roses, etc., all occurred within the context of hard rock, heavy metal, not alternative. Therefore, conclusions of December of documentary 1992, the year that punk broke, and the modern myth of some sort of alternative rock revolution happening in 1992 are erroneous. As well as popular opinion, alternative did not take over mainstream rock, which was heavy metal by the 1990s. Mainstream rock went under stylistic, mostly fashion and themes, trend changes in the 1990s, light to dark from within. 20-year nostalgia loop, 1960s and 1970s. Style 20-year nostalgia loop, 1975 to 77, first generation punk. On the 20-year nostalgia loop, 1995, 97 punk. That was the years the punk broke. Not had nothing to do with the fucking Nirvana. That had everything to do. Nirvana's more closely associated with the works of the fucking James Gang, ZZ Top, and Black Ark Arkansas than they are to the work of Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, or the Modern Lovers, or the Velvet Underground. Political proofs: polysex assault case showing underlying culture did not change, just the style of music. Sonic proofs: jangly versus riff. Alt rock continued unchanged. No revolution occurred. Indie label illusions. Mainstream majors still rule the roost. 20-year nostalgia loop. 1960s and 1970s. Acid, weed, leading into the 1970s world of heroin and darkness, mirrored in hard rock, metal, heavy metal metamorphosis from the glam rock bands to the thrash, death, and grunge metal things. Grunge is metal, not alternative music. 1989 to 90, end of glam hard rock's stage. 1969, if we go back 20 years from that, 1969, the first Black Sabbath record was released. Led Zeppelin and birth of heavy metal. End of the Beatles, start of dark psychedelia with Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon in 1973, and The Wall in 1979. The Pop Mirror in 1992, 20 years before that, 1972, female singer-songwriters abound. Alt hit bands, alt hit breakthroughs never stopped since the beginning. Blonde, meaning this, that Nirvana didn't start some sort of revolution. Alternative bands from the underground having hit songs is just happens because they're fucking commercial music released major for the most part on major record labels. Blondie, Talking Heads, The Cure, REM, etc. U2 all had hit songs. Nirvana, bizarre, nonsensical lyrics do not equate to meaningful lyrics. That which can be projected upon is not necessarily content rich. Not the voice of a generation. If so, that generation had no voice presented. Major label agenda? Question mark. Alice Cooper, Sex Pistols, Neil Young. You're caught up, okay? Folks, I love you. 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 If nobody told you that they loved you today, somebody just did. Drop an album to listen to before you sign off, Chanter. Drop an album to listen to before you sign off. Holy shit, you're gonna kill me. Hold on. I'll give you something. Yes. You know what? You know what's fucking fire? From 1980, the hold on. Thin Lizzy had a record in 1980 that was not a hit for them, but should have been. Let me see something. Hold on. I want to see if this song is on here. That was a good one. Hold on. Wait. There's another one. Phil Lymont of Thin Lizzy had a solo record, I think, in hold on. Christ. Hold on. Oh, here we go. This is what I need. And one for Solo and Soho. Disco. Here's a record I'm gonna endorse. Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy had a record that called Solo and Soho. That record. That's a record you can fucking listen to. That's a record. King's Call. That track is fucking fire. So there you go. Mini Mins with a donation of $4.99 saying, "You rock. God bless you. God bless you for your financial donation." There you go. So many things. People are just mentioning bands. Melvin's. Here, let me see if I can do this. Planet Peasant Media says Melvin's birth grunge. No. The Melvins are a Black Sabbath cover band. I love the Melvins. 25 Dad says, talk about Tool. We got more stuff to go. I've got a Patreon. Like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on fucking YouTube or I'll die, right? There you go. I love you. Fudge Tunnel were great too. Oh my God. Fudge Tunnel. What was Fudge Tunnel's breakout song? Their cover of fucking, was it Sunshine of Your Love? They covered some song by fucking Cream, right? Jonaside says Melvins were the first grunge band. I was there. Okay, yeah, but that's on the West Coast. On the East Coast, you have St. Vitus, first grunge band. And what do the Melvins and St. Vitus have in common? They both sound like fucking Black Sabbath. Anyway, folks, Nirvana was heavy metal. They were heavy metal. That's it. They weren't alternative rock. They weren't punk. They were heavy metal. Pearl Jam, that's a fucking hard rock band. Suck my motherfucking dick. All y'all who disagree with me, right? From their long hair to their rock and roll Neil Young jeans, all of those bands were hard rock, heavy metal. God bless them. Vanessa Thor says, I love that Nirvana only speaks to and is the voice of a small generation, misunderstood by Chanter's generation. Girlfriend, I was born in 1975, okay? I had Nirvana's the first record that came out, Bleach. I had that on cassette before I had Nevermind. I was that generation. You think that you're part of a generation that was misunderstood? And Nirvana were only around for a handful of fucking years. I get that I just slammed a band that you like. Zickafoos 2020 says My Bloody Valentine. Absolutely, My Bloody Valentine was awesome. Vanessa Thor says still too old to get it. I was in high school. How much? Listen, hold on. When Nirvana's Nevermind came out, I was in fucking high school. Because I was a junior your freshman year. You think I don't fucking get it? You don't get it, popcorn kiddo. You don't get it. But you're a freshman and I'm a junior, so hey, what's going on? What's up? You like Nirvana? Oh, they're good, man. They're good. Hey, did you ever hear their first tape, Bleach? I got in my Trans Am down at the student parking lot. Got a joint too. What do you say? Want to get pregnant? Oh, come on. No. Listen, I've got a sense of humor. Everyone's going crazy. Brian W. Smith says, I saw Nirvana open for Sonic Youth in 1992. They were awful. Don't say that about Sonic Youth. They were great. Anywho, and if no one told you they loved you today, somebody just did, and that somebody is the dude who's got a copy of Bleach's Nirvana's Bleach in the 8-track player of his Trans Am. That's it. Jonaside says I saw Nirvana in '89 with the Melvins. Good for you. Mini Mint says I'm same age at CW, and I was too young to see Nirvana at local club right before Teen Spirit. Hey, God bless you. God bless you. Anyway, folks, I love y'all. I want Vanessa Thor to type into the live chat that she's cool, that we're cool. I always feel bad. I never know if my jokes are going to land, if people are going to take it the wrong way. I hope everyone's having a good time. I love you, CW. There you go. Absolutely. That's before I pull the fucking Rick Darris. And or no, who's the guy I'm thinking of? Not Spicoli. From Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The guy who gets the girl pregnant. Damone. Damone, Synthetic Rebellion's Damone. They say, why do you hang out with that? No, but I need the full name. What was his name? Was Damone? Damone was the first name. Was it Damone? Or no, it was something Damone, right? Hold on. Don't tell me. Oh my God. Here we go. The Ghost of Lyndon LaRouche. Oh man, remember that time what was that movie? Lyndon LaRouche's ghost got the chick from Fire and Blood pregnant. Hold on. Maybe 2 more Cokes. Mike Damone. I can't believe I had to go for it. I can't believe I had to go for the fucking thing. They always say, why do you hang out with that guy Damone? Let's say, you just don't know Mike. You just don't know Damone. He's a cool guy. Well, maybe they were all right. Maybe they were all right about you. You little prick. How do you even know it's mine? Oh my God. So we got from Nirvana to fucking Mike Damone in like an hour and 37 minutes. Folks, that's the show. I love you. I gotta get the fuck out of here. There is a Patreon. You can support me in the live chat. You can support me on Patreon if money is too rich for your blood, because I don't blame you, because what's this show? Go ahead, and if you want to, like, comment, and subscribe, and share it on social media. Why the fuck not? You'll impress your friends. Okay, folks, I love you. I'll talk to you later. Synthetic Rebellion narrator. Turns out Mike Damone was not a good guy. Oh God. Peasant Media says, you ready for Matrix 4? Matrix 4. Absolutely. 20 nostalgia loop. 2020. What are they working on? They're working on Matrix 4. When did the first Matrix movie come out? 20 years ago. 1999. 21 years ago. God bless you. God bless you. Warp Rusher says, don't ask me for money and love me at the same sentence. But that's my jam. Telling you that I love you as I'm asking you for money is kind of my thing. It's kind of what got me here on YouTube, right, baby? There you go, folks. I love you. We'll talk to you later, brothers and sisters.